What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another YouTube video. I'm Jusagin, and we have our Crows OP by Zoo. I never seen one of his videos in a long time, but I like him. I used to watch his videos all the time, but I just somehow just stopped watching them. But our Crows OP, I don't know. I know they smart. I remember a crow stole my chicken nuggets and fries one time, and I was hot. I wanted to get him so bad, but I mean, it's a crow, like he can fly and stuff. But let's see what crows are about.
They've already lost. They just don't know it. Hit him from behind. Stop looking at me. Attack! Save it for the enemy.
Wow.
Control of the command post.
Wow, that was smart. That was smart. Like I said, they smart, man.
Primates are notorious for their incredibly broken intelligence stat, which grants them access to incredible advanced techniques such as tool use, coordinated team strategies, and even bartering and trade. But primates are not the only faction in the game with a high intelligence.
They can do that?
Cetacean, cephalopod, and bird mains also commonly opt not to spec into powerful damage dealing abilities.
What?
And
He's
instead
actually
invest into leveling up their brain power.
That's crazy.
While this does seem like a risky choice, leaving the player more vulnerable in direct 1v1 combat, in actuality this often results in a much less risky playthrough, as the player's intelligence opens up more options for them to progress that don't require winning in combat. This is especially true of the bird faction, as their ability to fly already allows them to quickly escape most unfavorable combat encounters. Today, we're going to discuss one of the two main intelligence-centered bird builds, the faction that contains crows, ravens, and magpies, the corvid. This video is going to focus mostly on crows as an example, but generally what I say in this video should apply to most corvids. First, let's discuss their stats, as well as the abilities and strategies that exemplify them. We'll begin with their stealth stat, which corvids aren't particularly excellent in. The most popular corvid skins are either jet black or piebald, neither of which grant the user that strong of a stealth bonus. In fact, in snowy areas, jet black feathers are actually one of the least effective choices when trying to remain hidden. A dark appearance is most effective as camouflage at night. But crows and other corvids are not nocturnal builds.
I like that shot.
They aren't really gaining this benefit from it. Now, granted, stealth typically isn't all that important for birds, given how agile and vigilant they are. Plenty of other high-tier avian builds, like for example parrots, are arguably some of the least stealthy birds in the game, and they do just fine. You could even argue that corvids are even less stealthy than their black feathers initially appear, as their iridescence actually makes them even easier to see for certain other players, typically other birds. Ultimately, I think it's safe to say stealth is not an important part of their gameplay.
So they just dart for nothing.
Nowhere near as important as it is for ambush predator builds, like an owl. The main predators a crow needs to worry about are raptors.
That's one thing about owls.
Of the raptor,
I'm terrified of owls, man. I'm not terrified of what they look like. I'm terrified of what they can do. They're so silent and they move so smooth. It's crazy. Like
keen eyesight ability. It's unlikely having a higher stealth stat would make much of a difference anyway.
Ultra instinct.
The crow's defense and constitution stats are fairly average for a bird, which is to say not great. Birds have hollow bones, and their feathers offer very little in terms of defense. Feathers do absorb some blunt force damage, but when it comes to slashing and piercing damage, it's nearly useless. And because of their hollow bones, which make them more vulnerable to blunt force damage, the benefit there kind of cancels out as well. Snakes, cats, raccoons, raptors, and dogs all have a high chance of taking a crow out in one hit, so they cannot let their guard down when interacting with any damage dealer builds. Given that their playstyle necessitates taking some risk, pro players definitely wish they had more room for error. Thankfully,
he caught him!
Stat makes it pretty easy to avoid damage.
He tried to sneak the cat.
Mobility
the cat got him.
Above average for a mid-sized bird, which is to say, excellent. Birds in general are just extremely agile, both on the ground and in the air, making them extremely hard to land an attack on if they see you coming. Some bird builds, like geese and junglefowl, require significant startup in order to get airborne, meaning that they can't rely on their flight to escape danger if the danger is already right in front of them. Crows are not one of these bird builds, and in contrast, the startup on their flight move has some shockingly broken frame data. and allows them to quickly and easily reposition themselves in
Ooh.
basically any direction in greedy space
Ultra
almost
instinct.
instantly. This makes their ability to dodge attacks one of the best in the entire game, and makes what would normally be fairly dangerous positions, such as
The
right next
vulture,
to a powerful
vulture
predator,
look cool.
quite safe
Vultures
as long
look
as the
cool.
Corvid doesn't use any laggy moves. This synergizes well with the Corvid's
Vultures
combat
look
moveset,
like a
as we'll
Pokemon.
discuss in a moment. Corvids are blessed with many high stats, but power is not one of them. Their ability to deal damage is one of the weakest in their weight
What are
class,
these pictures?
as their only attack option is a simple pecking strike. This move has quick
Whack.
startup and very little end lag, but its damage is egregiously low.
Yeah, so
Simply
they
attacking with this move will deal minimal damage to anything larger than an insect.
ain't made to fight. They're made to be like humans, man. They're just smart and use tools and do stuff like that. They're not made to box to fight at all.
Most players will be able to ignore this attack's damage. However, this doesn't mean a crow's attacks are useless. It just means they've got to be clever about how they use them. A well-placed peck can provoke an attack, and if you're able to move out of the way quick enough, the enraged player will end up being forced to lash out at whoever just happens to be nearby,
That's
and
crazy.
create an opening for the Corvid player to capture an
crazy.
objective, steal some loot, or escape trouble.
That's smart, man.
It might seem like a jank strategy, but really this is the bread and butter of Corvid gameplay, and can lead to massive swings in advantage. The chance to afflict the enraged status effect scales with the user's intelligence stat, so the reason this strategy works so well is that the Corvid's intelligence stat is ridiculously high for a non-primate build. Corvids are tied with parrots for the highest.
Bro was instigating the fight. He's instigating the fight. He's literally like he's oh my, I mean y'all see it. I'm not gonna
Intelligence stats in the entire avian faction. And in addition to enabling the goading strike moveset, having high intelligence grants Corvids access to a lot of other powerful techniques too, including the ability to use tools. Tool use is one of the most notoriously powerful abilities in the entire game. And in crows, this is no less true. By using hook-shaped wooden sticks, crows can score kills on grubs that are normally safe from everything except for woodpecker attacks. And given how many expensive niche perks woodpeckers need to spec into in order to perform these sorts of drilling attacks, the ability to bypass all of that investment while still gaining the same rewards is a huge
that's
boon for
crazy.
crows.
They know how to do
But
that.
high intelligence has far
They
more
know how to
benefits
do
than just
that.
allowing crows to copy the success of hyper-specialized builds. Arguably the most important benefit is team tactics. This is what allows baboons to fight off lions, what allows ants to bring down tarantulas, and what allows wolves to prey upon bison. When crows work together, they can capture territory and control points of interest that they'd otherwise be helpless to defend.
Wow,
they can even rescue each
smart.
other from what would otherwise be guaranteed lethal attacks, using a tactic called mobbing. Mobbing is a strategy most commonly seen in birds, consisting of bombarding a single target with a barrage of both physical and sonic attacks. On their own, these would be easy to shrug off, but when you're getting pecked at and screeched at from all directions at once, it inflicts
I
heavy
was not
physical
playing
and
no
psychic
games,
damage.
bro.
This is what allows social corvids, like magpies and crows, to successfully chase away predators several times their size. Ravens, on the other hand, tend not to really need the
Making
help,
all
as
that
they're
noise.
large enough to handle most opponents one-on-one, but can still team up in order to lock down a good source of carry.
Yeah, ravens are big.
Alternatively, they may even ally themselves with wolf players, leading them to a carcass and letting them do the work fighting off their competition before sharing the rewards. Anyway, that's a basic overview of the Corvid build. Now let's talk about their matchup.
That's smart.
The Corvid matchup chart is heavily dependent on how effective their goading strike and mobbing technique.
Why can't humans just randomly team up with animals like this? You know, it's crazy how a wolf and a bear and a wolf and a crow can team up like this, but when people like what actually now that I think about it, I think that random animals be trying to team up with us. It's just that we humans are so we're not like that. We're not hardwired to just think, oh man, I can just team up with this random animal, find some food.
Are against a given target. Luckily, because of how high the Corvid's intelligence stat is, the list of targets Goading Strike works against is quite long. It is best against builds with lower intelligence stats. Things like vultures, things like reptiles, and things like rodents. What's more, this technique even works on one of the Corvid's two primary threats,
I want a
feline
crow, man.
builds. Deadly as cats are, they're often quite reactive and easily aggroed.
Yes,
so
they're
Goading
very
Strike
reactive.
is the perfect tool to redirect their ferocity. This move is admittedly less effective against the Corvid's other main concern, raptors. However, thankfully the mobbing technique is quite effective against raptors.
They're about to knock him off the
for
roof.
both of their main threats, the Crow players have options. The only builds these techniques aren't that effective against are other high intelligence builds, such as monkeys and parrots. Because of their extremely strong social bonding and top-tier intelligence stat, parrots are highly resistant to psychic damage and do not turn on each other easily. In fact, when pestered by a Corvid, they are likely to defend each other fiercely using their own, more powerful beaks and louder shrieks. One-on-one, they're fairly evenly matched, so it tends to just come down to size. But in groups, Corvids tend to have difficulty forcing parrots away from an objective.
So parrots
As for
is
monkeys,
as smart
their
as
higher HP
crows.
allows them to more easily ignore the
I don't
pecking
know which
attacks
one I
of a
want
crow.
now.
And they're used to getting their tails tugged all the time by their own party members, so a crow doing it is unlikely to provoke a punishable response. Crows and parrots have an interesting dynamic. I've said in previous videos that I believe parrots to be the more viable build. They have higher dexterity with their beaks, their sonic shriek attack is incredibly effective, they're more social, and arguably more intelligent even.
I guess I want a parrot. I guess parrots are just better.
There's no denying that in the city biome, Corvids are much more successful. I think the reason for this is that even though parrots are indeed more powerful on their own, and are better at using most tools than crows are better at using the most important tools, other players. From provoking attacks and redirecting aggression, to using passing vehicles to deal damage for them and unlock high-value loot, Corvids are the best of the best when it comes to using other build strengths to cover for their own shortcomings. And if the human build's dominance is any indication, co-opting the strengths of less intelligent builds is one of the strongest strategies you can possibly execute in the game. And it's for this reason that Corvids sit proudly in S tier.